Question 16, Deputy Eugene Murphy is not in the House, so I don't propose to take that. I'm moving on to question 17 in the name of Deputy Pat Casey. You have 30 seconds, Deputy, to introduce the question.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach. And indeed, this is my first time addressing the Taoiseach Minister. Can I wish her well in her role as Taoiseach and equally in her role as Minister for Justice. I suppose my question today is about Garda stations and the number of Gardaí in Wicklow and the difference since 2011 to April of this year, and I suppose the correlation of that and the impact that has on crime figures itself. Thank you, Minister.
As the Deputy will appreciate, and thank you for your good wishes, Deputy, the Garda Commissioner is responsible for the distribution of personnel among the Garda regions, divisions and district. Garda management do keep this distribution under continuing review, taking into account crime trends and policing priorities. I think it's very important that we do that. The Inspector's report has spoken about the need to continually monitor and review how Gardaí are allocated to different areas depending on crime trends, because the crime trends do vary around the country very considerably. And we can't just be making those decisions based on precedents or history. I have been informed by the Garda Commissioner in summary that there were 19 stations on the 30th of April to 11, with 350 members assigned to the Wicklow division. On the 30th of April 16, there were 17 stations in the Wicklow division, with 311 Gardaí assigned to the division. As the Deputy will understand, there is a huge amount of information, Deputy, available in relation to your area, down to station and sub-district level, which you had requested. And for ease of reference, I have provided you with a breakdown of the detailed information, and that is available to you for the record. I won't go into all of that detail here, but it is available to you. I would repeat that I and the Government are committed to a very strong and visible police presence. I think I've shown that by my actions as Minister for Justice and reopening Templemore and giving the commitment, and I know your party was very keen to have this commitment as well, and indeed supported it and wanted to see it in the programme for government. That's the acceleration to 15,000. I'm hoping that in the September intake that we will be in a position, depending on my discussions with the Minister for Public Expenditure, that we will be in a position to accelerate the intake into Templemore and see more Gardaí coming through, so that we can, if you like, repair the damage that was done during the period of recession, where Garda numbers were reduced, where Templemore was closed, where investment stopped. All of that has changed thanks to the better economic situation. We are now investing once again very heavily in Garda Síochána, as evidenced by recent actions.
Deputy Casey.
Thank you, Taoiseach, to that. And firstly, can I acknowledge the good work and the excellent work that the Gardaí are doing in exceptionally very difficult and constrained times. But equally, Minister, and I know you're talking about the distribution of Gardaí, there is still a limited number of Gardaí available for the country as a whole. And Wicklow has indeed suffered by a reduction of 40 since 2011. And equally, more worryingly, I suppose, from the information I have received, Wicklow did receive 10 new recruits, 2 of which regretfully have resigned, and hopefully that is not a worrying trend that it is. But Wicklow, as you know, has a very large urbanised area to the north and has a very large rural area bordering Dublin, where criminals are organised and mobile and using both the N11 and the N81 to access the rural area. The reduction in Wicklow Gardaí has resulted in a corresponding increase in recorded crime, for over 10% increase in serious offences as control of drugs offences and sexual offences, to a massive 27% increase in weapons and explosives.
Thank you, Deputy. Taoiseach.
As you say, Deputy, there are 10 of the newly attested Gardaí have been assigned to the Wicklow division, and as I said in my original answer, I think it is extremely important that we allocate Gardaí to different areas, and that it's the Garda Commissioner obviously makes that decision. I have absolutely nothing to do with it. These decisions in relation to numbers of Gardaí in different areas or transfers, these are entirely a matter for the Garda Commissioner, and I want to be very clear about that. But I think it's extremely extremely important that those decisions are made on the basis of looking at crime trends, examining decreases or increases in relation to crime trends, and making sure that decisions are taken on that basis. And as I say, Wicklow did get 10 new Gardaí as a result of the increased recruitment, and I've no doubt that the situation will be monitored in relation to the crime trends that you describe, because we are very conscious of the mobile gangs, as you say, who do move along that corridor and who try to commit crime.
Thank you, Tánaiste. Deputy Casey, another minute.
Yeah, just maybe on one other issue, you know, the retirement of senior personnel is indeed a concern, and the knowledge that goes with that when they retire. And as I suppose an immediate response, would the Minister consider, and I think I have heard it mentioned before, about on a voluntary basis maybe of increasing the retirement age of the Gardaí from 60 up to 63, which would help address the situation immediately, and it would retain that knowledge, and indeed the cost benefit of that would be good, because as we know there would be no lump sum payment and there would be no pension payment which would be of 50%, and possibly could form. And I suppose as part of the programme for government, we're trying to say that we want to reinvest in the public service, and maybe that could be an option the Minister could look at.
Thank you, Deputy Tánaiste.
Well, quite a number of people make recommendations about, for example, bringing back retired Gardaí. I mean, it's not possible to bring back retired Gardaí to do the job of current members of An Garda Síochána, but the Commissioner is examining, are there ways in which the skill and the experience which you rightly describe that Gardaí have built up over the years. She is examining how that might be used, perhaps in a range of areas. And I think that's very important if that's feasible to do. In terms of extending the age, can I say to you that would obviously have implications across the public sector. And I think in that context it would be a whole of government decision, particularly for the Minister for Public Expenditure to consider. But I think what we're doing now is accelerating the recruitment. I think that's the important place. We also have to work on the increasing civilianisation of An Garda Síochána. That's very important as well, that we would deal with that. And in that regard, there were advertisements just in the paper in July, just recently, 2 weeks ago, for more staff, so that we can continue the civilianisation in Dublin Airport in Terminal 2. So that will free up some Gardaí to do other important duties.
Okay, I'm moving on to question 18 in the name of Deputy Jim O'Callaghan.